March 2025, John Deere lost 27% of its market value, a staggering $14 billion wiped out in just 5 trading days. But the sell-off wasn't triggered by bad earnings or a product recall. It began with something much simpler and far more dangerous, a pileup of tractors at the US-Mexico border. Thousands of brand-new John Deere machines worth millions of dollars were stuck in limbo, parked just meters away from their intended farms in Mexico. But customs officers weren't moving. The timing couldn't be worse. Spring planting season was days away, and over 1.7 million acres of farmland, including key crops like tomatoes, chili peppers, and avocados, were left idle. While Wall Street panicked over share prices, farmers across northern Mexico were staring at empty fields, their harvest plans derailed by a trade standoff that escalated silently without a single shot fired, just engines silenced. And this was just the beginning. Mexico didn't fire back with tariffs. It didn't make fiery speeches. Instead, it did something far more subtle and far more effective. In early March 2025, Mexican customs officials quietly began detaining John Deere farming equipment at 2 major entry points, Laredo and Nogales. The official explanation: standards verification. But farmers, exporters, and even rival manufacturers knew exactly what it was: a silent form of economic retaliation. And it wasn't even across the board. While 140 pieces of John Deere equipment, from high-tech harvesters to smart tractors, sat in holding yards under the scorching sun, rival brands like Kubota and Case IH moved through the border with zero delay. The message was unmistakable. Deere was being singled out. For John Deere, the financial damage was immediate. Each day of delay meant millions lost in missed contracts, storage fees, and mounting insurance risks. But for farmers on the Mexican side, the cost was even more personal. In the state of Sinaloa, where agriculture powers over 30% of the economy, Eduardo Vasquez stood on 5,000 acres of land ready for planting. His custom-ordered Deere tractor, equipped with precision seeders and satellite-guided navigation, was just 30 feet away, parked in a dusty lot on the Texas side. "I can see it," he told a local paper, "but I can't touch it. And every hour we wait, the season slips away." This wasn't just red tape. It was an intentional chokehold on timing. Spring planting windows are narrow. Miss them and entire harvests vanish. In total, over 1.7 million acres of farmland in Mexico faced disruption due to Deere's stalled deliveries in an area nearly the size of Delaware. Crops like tomatoes, avocados, and chili peppers, key exports to both the US and Canada, were now in jeopardy. And yet not a single retaliatory tariff had been announced. Not a single press conference had been held. Mexico was turning trade tension into quiet precision warfare, using regulatory tools, not loud proclamations. For Deere, it was more than a shipping delay. It was a reputational crisis and a warning shot. Even the most iconic American brands are not immune to the politics of retaliation. And for farmers, it was proof that trade wars don't just happen in Washington or Beijing. They happen at the gate to your field, in silence and with devastating impact. This wasn't just about tariffs or border politics. Beneath the headlines, there's a deeper, festering resentment that's been building for years, and it's aimed directly at John Deere's business model. At the center of it is one controversial policy: Deere's software lockouts, which prevent farmers from repairing their own equipment. The company forces customers to pay thousands of dollars to authorized technicians just to unlock basic functions, even for minor malfunctions that could be fixed in minutes. Imagine this: a $50 sensor goes bad, a common part that any mechanic could replace. But because of Deere's digital restrictions, the machine won't restart unless the software is reset by a licensed dealer. That simple fix, it could cost anywhere from $500 to $5,000, depending on how far the technician needs to travel, how busy the service center is, or how urgent the repair is. For farmers already struggling with fuel, seed, and fertilizer costs, these repair ransom fees are not just frustrating, they're infuriating. And it's not just an accident of design. Leaked internal documents, including a now infamous slide deck titled "Revenue Enhancement Through Service Exclusivity," show that John Deere deliberately engineered these limitations to monetize repairs, not just sell machines. The goal: lock in farmers to an ecosystem where Deere controls the hardware, the software, and on the service pipeline, and squeezes revenue from every bolt turned. To many, this isn't just bad business, it's betrayal. The very people who rely on these machines to feed the country now feel trapped by them. And in places like Iowa, Nebraska, and northern Mexico, that anger has reached a boiling point.
In Ottumwa, Iowa today, members of the United Auto Workers walked the picket line, kicking off the nation's largest private sector strike in 2 years.
What began as a border delay is now being seen in a much larger context, a slow-motion rebellion against corporate control over the tools of labor. And this time, the pushback isn't coming from politicians or regulators. It's coming from the ground, literally. Faced with soaring repair bills, stalled equipment, and a deafening silence from corporate headquarters, farmers on both sides of the border stopped waiting and started hacking. What began as quiet frustration quickly exploded into a full-blown grassroots rebellion. Across rural America and northern Mexico, farmers began turning to underground forums, Telegram groups, and obscure GitHub pages. The weapon of choice. A black market tool known as Green Ghost. A software patch that unlocks John Deere's machines, bypasses diagnostic codes, and lets farmers regain control over their own equipment. In just 6 weeks, traffic to DIY repair forums surged over 300% as hundreds of farmers posted screenshots, firmware dumps, and how-to guides to jailbreak their machines. Some even recorded tutorials in Spanish and English, step-by-step, teaching others how to override Deere's digital gatekeepers. One ex-John Deere engineer speaking anonymously to a repair advocacy group confirmed the worst fears of these farmers. "We didn't build these machines to last. We built them to generate recurring revenue."
In 2023, Deere made $10 billion in profit and spent about $8 billion on stock buybacks and dividends.
Deere's in business to make money for their shareholders. Moving to somewhere like Mexico is attractive for them, so you have a cheaper workforce.
The admission, though whispered, echoed like thunder across a farming community that had long suspected it. And in those dusty garages and back sheds, a quiet revolution took root. This wasn't about breaking the law, it was about breaking free. Free from monopolized repairs, free from software shackles, free from the feeling that every harvest depended not on rain or seed but on a corporate green light from Moline, Illinois. The era of blind trust in farm tech was over, and the age of the farmer hacker had begun. It began as a logistics bottleneck. But by week 3, the fallout had detonated across multiple fronts: corporate balance sheets, rural cooperatives, grocery stores, and family kitchens. John Deere, once seen as the unshakable backbone of American farming, was now hemorrhaging losses at an unprecedented pace. Over $370 million per week, according to internal filings and warehouse reports, vanished into the black hole of stalled inventory, rerouted shipments, contract penalties, and mounting storage fees. But this wasn't just an operational hiccup, it was a credibility crisis. Moody's and S&P, two of the most influential credit rating agencies in the world, placed Deere under negative review, citing acute disruption in cross-border logistics and eroding trust among agricultural buyers. In less than 5 trading sessions, John Deere's corporate bonds were downgraded, triggering institutional sell-offs and a quiet panic in agritech portfolios. On the ground, the cracks spread even faster. In Nebraska, the state's largest agricultural cooperative, serving over 15,000 family-owned farms, made a public decision that sent shockwaves through the Midwest. It canceled a $40 million equipment renewal contract with John Deere, citing unacceptable dependencies on proprietary servicing. In its place, the co-op pivoted to Kubota and Mahindra firms seen as more transparent, more affordable, and most importantly, less restrictive. That decision didn't just signal a shift in vendor preference, it signaled a revolt. For decades, loyalty to John Deere was a cultural given, generational, patriotic. But now that loyalty is unraveling under the weight of digital locks, service monopolies, and crippling import standoffs, and the pain is no longer just felt by CEOs or co-op boards, it's moving straight onto dinner tables across America. Because of planting delays across 1.7 million acres in northern Mexico and southern U.S. border regions, a growing list of crops, avocados, tomatoes, jalapenos, romaine lettuce, and bell peppers, are either late undersized or at risk of missing the season entirely. Wholesale prices have surged between 9% and 23% for select produce categories, according to USDA regional spot trackers. That means families in Texas, Arizona, and California are already seeing $3.99 avocados and $4.50 pepper packs, with worse to come. All of this because tractors couldn't cross a line in the sand, because software was locked behind a paywall, because one company prioritized control over cooperation. What started as a mechanical standoff has evolved into a full-spectrum breakdown: financial, logistical, ethical, and agricultural. And now the rest of America is picking up the tab. At the checkout aisle, at the dinner table, and in the rapidly shrinking space left for trust. While American lawmakers debated quietly behind closed doors, the rest of the world acted, and loudly. In Brussels, Ottawa, and Mexico City, the message was unified. The age of repair monopolies is over. The European Union formally introduced a binding resolution demanding full right-to-repair legislation, citing the John Deere case as a textbook example of corporate overreach. Canada, through its House of Commons Agriculture Subcommittee, launched an investigation into how locked equipment impacted food security and farmer autonomy, and hinted at tariff penalties for companies refusing to comply with open repair standards. Mexico took an even bolder step, a class action request for compensation on behalf of affected farmers, citing breach of trade fairness and economic coercion. Suddenly, what started as a software licensing dispute had evolved into a transnational supply chain standoff. In parallel, companies like Mahindra, the Indian agricultural equipment giant, saw an opportunity and pounced, launching a bold campaign titled, "Own It Outright Half the Price. Twice the Freedom." Mahindra began aggressively expanding its U.S. dealership footprint, targeting disillusioned farmers with offers of transparent repair terms, no digital locks, and full equipment ownership. By mid-2025, Mahindra had already secured contracts in 6 U.S. states, including Texas, Iowa, and Ohio territories long considered Deere strongholds. This isn't just a marketing pivot, it's a global economic realignment, a recalibration of trust, sovereignty, and production logic in the heart of agriculture. And yet, in Washington, silence. No congressional hearing, no public statement, no shift in regulation. While Europe legislates, while Canada investigates, and while competitors expand, the U.S. remains stuck in a defensive crouch, guarding a legacy brand that may no longer represent the future of American farming. If the silence continues, others will write the rules. And they already are. If farmers can't fix their own tractors, do they still own them? If a $50 sensor needs a $5,000 unlock code, who's in control of farmers or corporations? The goal was to protect U.S. manufacturing. Instead, farmers are ditching John Deere for Kubota, Mahindra, and Hyundai, not by choice but by necessity. This isn't a protest in the streets, it's a quiet rebellion powered by firmware, not fists. And the bigger question remains, when the tools of farming are locked down, who really controls our food? If that question matters to you, share this video. Subscribe for more, because this fight isn't just about tractors, it's about freedom.